The Pacific jungles had way more going on than just some enemy grunts with rifles. Seriously, what those guys found out there shouldn't have even existed. Welcome to War Files Uncovered, the show where the real, messy truth claws its way out of the shadows. Smash that subscribe button, unless you'd rather not know what's crawling around in history's basement. So this all kicked off on a little island barely more than a smudge on the map. Just a patch of green out in the middle of nowhere, Pacific mist hanging so thick it felt alive. Marines in 44 called it Isla Arde. Locals though? They've been calling it the island that devours men since forever. Official reports said, just a supply point overrun by Japanese troops. But the guys sent out there? They came back with a different story. They swore there was something else on that island. Something ancient, something nobody wanted to meet in the dark. Picture this, landing craft crunches onto the black sand. Instead of gunfire, there's just dead quiet. Air's like syrup, jungles breathing at you, not with you. Sergeant Crane, old-timer from Guadalcanal, later told a medic even the birds were on mute. It felt, he said, like the jungle was listening to us. The plan? Easy recon, check the place out, set up an outpost, report back in 2 days. But Isla Arde basically told them to shove their plans. First couple hours in, they spot these weird stakes poking up along the tree line. Stuffed on top? Skulls? At first, they figured, oh, probably animals. No. Closer look, and these things had human teeth, but they were all wrong. Way too wide, too long, curved like something out of a nightmare. Lennox, the youngest, freaked out and said one had wet meat still stuck to it, but when they flicked their torches back, it was bone-dry and ghostly white. Classic horror movie stuff, right? By sundown, things got chilly. Guys dug into the muck, set up some perimeter lights, started cracking jokes about curses and cannibals, anything to keep the shakes off. Then past midnight, all the laughter died. Somewhere deep in the jungle, they heard it. Not quite an animal, not quite anything else. A sound like something pretending to be alive. Hayes said it was a cry that didn't know what throat it came from. Nobody slept. They just sat there, rifles up, listening to that thing circle them, slow and steady. Dawn shows up and bam, 2 guys are gone. No mess, no dragging, just vanished. Gear left behind, helmets sitting side by side like nothing happened. Crane loses it, sends out a search. Only thing they find? These monstrous claw marks in the mud. Each print longer than a man's hand, dug deep like something heavy had been crawling around. Lieutenant tries to radio for help, but the radio's spazzing out. All the brass gets is static and bits of panic. Missing men, not enemy, not human. Then radio goes kaput. As the day wears on, stuff starts getting weirder. Vines move even though there's no wind. Trees creak like something squirming under the ground. Lennox swore he saw eyes in the dark. Yellow, unblinking, way too high off the ground for any normal creature. He fired his rifle into the brush. No scream, nothing. Just silence and this nasty metallic smell drifting back. That night, they go full campfire defense. Circle up, pour fuel around, pray the flames keep the monsters out. For a while, it seems to work. Then, right out of a nightmare, a figure stumbles out from the jungle. Japanese uniform, cracked gas mask, moving all wrong, like its bones are made of rubber bands. Guys yell, try to warn it off. It keeps coming, shuffling into the firelight and just stops. Under the mask? Its face is black, all melted together, but you can see it pulsing like something still alive in there. Then it tilts its head sideways, and that same awful dragging cry starts up all over again. So yeah, the Marines unloaded everything they had. Rounds ripping through whatever that thing was, but it didn't go down, just kind of staggered, then slipped back into the trees. Left this nasty black gunk on the ground, steaming like something out of a nightmare. And man, after that, not a sound. The whole jungle just went stone dead. Nobody said a word for the rest of the night. By sunrise, the fire was a sad little glow in the trees. They were just wrong. Deep scratches, weird spiral symbols hacked into the bark, stuff nobody remembered seeing before. 3 days in, everybody was coming apart at the seams. The lieutenant? Gone. Poof. Half the guys wouldn't even get up. Crane tried to play tough guy, barking at everyone to move further inland, find a spot for a chopper maybe. But the deeper they pushed, the more off everything felt. The canopy got so thick it was like walking through dusk at noon. Air was heavy, thick with bugs you couldn't see, and this stench, sweet, rotten, like pennies and spoiled fruit, clung to them wherever they went. Then they tripped over the cave. You wouldn't see it unless you were looking. A mess of vines big enough to drive a truck through. Ground outside littered with old Japanese helmets, rusted nearly to dust. Inside, walls were slick like someone smeared them with blood and sap. Everybody lit torches, guns up, nerves fried. They barely got 10 yards before they found it. A ring of dead Japanese soldiers, rifles melted into the dirt, faces twisted mid-scream. In the middle was something. Hard to even look at. It squirmed, changed shape with the shadows like a pile of meat trying to decide what it wanted to be. Or maybe a cocoon. One guy got cocky, stepped closer. The thing moved, reached out, shiny and wet. Crane yelled, but bam, too late. It lashed out, torches flared, and when the chaos died down, 2 guys were just gone. The air stank like burnt hair and blood. They stumbled outside, but the jungle had shifted again. Trees pressed in, light barely there, and the path they came in on? Gone. Crane finally figured it out. The island didn't just have something living on it. The whole damn place was alive. And now, it was paying attention. That night, what was left of the squad just sat around this sad little fire, jumpy as hell. And then, from the black, a voice started calling. The lieutenant's voice. All cracked and desperate, begging for help. But it wasn't just ahead. It came from everywhere. All sides, above, below. The voice kept getting louder till it warped into this busted-up laugh that rattled your bones. And that stink, you know, the one rolled in. By morning, there were only 4 of them left. They never even made it back to the shore. Weeks later, some Navy boys rolled in, picked up bits of a freaked-out distress call. They found squat. No bodies, no guns, not even a footprint. Just the ashes of a fire, and buried in the mess, a single dog tag, Sergeant William Crane. But here's the kicker, the detail nobody put in the official reports. A few months after all that, some Japanese fisherman on a nearby island swore up and down he saw figures moving on the beach late at night. Tall, twitchy eyes glowing. When he tried to get close, they all turned to look at him. And he could have bet his life. One of them was wearing marine gear. The Navy's official report on Isla Arde? Yeah, it got slapped with a big, juicy, classified, level red stamp like that was supposed to keep the ghosts in. Official story was no evidence of enemy engagement. Landing team just died from unknown environmental causes. Sure. And I'm the tooth fairy. Because see, the radio logs, those messy cut up little bits of tape, said something way nastier. Between 11 p.m. and 4 a.m., there's all this screaming, static, and then this bone-cold whisper creeping through, not matching any voice on the roster. They belong to it now. Twice. Then nothing but dead air. Command gave up on the island after a few weeks. Probably figured it was cursed or some other convenient excuse. But then, plot twist. The Japanese, totally in the dark about whatever nightmare the Americans hit, send in their own little recon squad to poke around and snatch up leftover intel. Easy job, right? Except by night 4, their radio guy manages to shoot off one last coded message. The enemy is not human. That's it. Curtain drop. Radio silence. By early 45, everything's falling apart, but Isla Arde's legend is just getting started. The stories are like jungle fever, half whispers traded over mud-clogged boots and hospital cots. Some folks mutter about curses. Others say chemical weapons gone wild. But the rare souls who actually saw the place, they didn't need fairy tales. They'd seen what walked those trees. So the brass decides to roll the dice one last time. Operation Torchlight. They pack it with nervous scientists, some sharp-eyed spooks, and a handful of Marines who've seen more than their share of hell, led by Captain Elias Ward, a guy whose survival record reads like a dare to the Grim Reaper. Ward doesn't buy into ghost stories. He's been chewed up at Tarawa, Saipan, Paliliu, seen all the ways men can get broken. But Isla Arde? Later, in a field journal he kept zipped away, Ward wrote, was not made by man, nor meant for him to find. That's gotta chill your bones. They come in under a sky so black it eats the light. Rain coming down like the ocean's trying to crush them. The island's silhouette is just this jagged, broken thing, like a busted tooth sticking out of the sea. Two guys are already puking before they even hit the sand, thanks to this sickly sweet rotting smell that clings to everything. While they're setting up, Ward catches these weird symbols scraped into the shore, circles and jagged lines, almost like a map nobody wants to read. Not something the tide would leave behind, unless the ocean's gone mad too. First night? Too quiet. Like the island's holding its breath. Then just after 2 in the morning, Private Rhodes, the baby of the group, swears he hears someone calling his name from the trees. He swings his light over and bam, there's a Marine standing there. Or, what's left of one. Uniform drenched, skin like milk gone bad, half a face missing, but you can tell, still human. Kinda. It's clutching a rusted dog tag. Rhodes says he hears it whisper, "Help me get back," through a mouth that barely works. Kid panics, fires off 2 shots, then just folds. The rest come running, but the thing's gone. Only thing left? The tag. William Crane. Next morning, they push deeper inland past busted Japanese bunkers. And inside those forget bodies, what's left is way worse. Charred handprints melted right into the steel, like the men inside tried to claw out during a fire that left not a trace of ash. Dr. Harland, one of the science types, spots kanji scrawled under the soot. Same words over and over, it listens. Second night, and the team's nerves are fraying like cheap rope. Guys keep hearing things, leaves rustling when there's no wind, radios whispering when they're dead and cold. Ward, fed up, orders all the radios smashed to bits except one secure line. But guess what? That night, the damn channel flickers to life on its own. Voice on the other end says it's Lieutenant Hensley, the same Hensley listed as MIA with Crane's platoon. "You can't leave," it says, calm as a priest at a funeral. "It knows you're here now." The jungle got weirder the farther in they pushed. It wasn't just shadows. Sometimes the trees seemed to slide around, like someone was rearranging the scenery when no one was looking. The ground wasn't steady either. Every now and then, the dirt would tremble underfoot like something big and foul was breathing down there, just waiting. By the time the sun decided to show up, the men found a hole in the earth wide enough for a grown man to squeeze through. The edges were rimmed with this nasty black gunk, flies buzzing around so thick it looked like the hole had a halo. Of course they went in. Because why not, right? Inside, the air was swampy and hot, thick with that coppery stink, like a butcher shop left to rot. Their flashlights caught glimpses of bones, lots of them, jammed into the walls and glued together by something sticky and yellow. Harlan chipped off a piece, muttering to himself, "It's like metal, but it's alive." Down the tunnel, they saw movement. Not animal movement, though. The wall itself sort of rippled, slow and disgusting, and then this thing peeled off the stone. It was too tall, way too thin, skin stretched tight and shiny over bones that didn't belong together. Eyes like bottomless holes, burning from inside. It opened its mouth and nothing. No noise at all. But the last word spoken in that tunnel echoed back at them, warped and wrong. "Run." Panic hit hard. Somebody started shooting, bullets sparking off the rock, the air turning into a war zone. Something yanked Harlan right off his feet, straight into the dark. Nobody waited to see what got him. They scrambled for the exit, falling in the mud, slipping over blood. When they finally burst outside, the ground was throbbing, red veins lighting up under the dirt. Ward was screaming, "Get to the beach," but half the squad was just gone. Night came fast. The survivors sat around a pathetic fire, the jungle muttering their names like it was hungry. Sloan totally lost it, sobbing and scratching at himself, swearing something was crawling inside his skin. Took 3 guys to hold him down. Then his veins started bulging, moving under his skin like worms, and his eyes went black as oil. He started to laugh, a sound that didn't belong in a human throat. Ward didn't hesitate. Shot him right in the head. The thing didn't bleed. It just made this hissing noise and stopped moving. By day 4, only Ward, Cole, and the radio man were left. They staggered towards what should have been the beach, barely able to think straight. But the coast was gone. No sand, just sharp black stone, and the ocean had pulled back like it was scared of the place. That's when they saw the figures lining the tree line. Dozens of them, American, Japanese, uniforms hanging in shreds, faces rotting and twisted, shuffling forward like broken marionettes. And behind them, something huge blotted out the jungle, a shape you couldn't focus on, all smoke and flesh distorting the air around it. Breathing, watching. Radio man dropped and started praying. Ward just stared, paralyzed, as the figures opened their mouths together and let out this deep, awful sound. Less a word, more like the ground itself was beating. Cole emptied his rifle, screaming, then vanished into the mist. Ward ran. He didn't remember how he got to the extraction site. All he remembered was the surf smashing against nothing and the feeling that something was right behind him all the way. 2 weeks later, they found Ward floating in a lifeboat, sunburned, half-mad, skin blistered and glowing under UV like a radioactive ghost. The only thing he managed to say before passing out? "It's not done." He died 2 days later. His body rotted away so fast it freaked out the medics, leaving that same black residue from the cave. The official report: yeah, that disappeared. Isla Arde got locked down, biochemical contamination, stamped all over the paperwork. But the stories? They kept going. Fishermen swear they see lights pulsing under the waves at night, steady and slow, like a giant heartbeat. And sometimes when the tide pulls back, dog tags wash up on the rocks. Names scrubbed away, tags still warm as if someone just took them off. So Isla Arde. Nobody touched it for 25 years. It pretty much got ghosted by the world, scrubbed off maps, left out of every chart like the military had just shoved it under the rug and sat on top. Fast forward to the 1970s, peak Cold War paranoia, and suddenly the place is back on the radar. What? Radiation. Not the regular kind either. Satellite guys start picking up these weird, pulsing signals coming out of the exact spot where Captain Ward's crew vanished. Not some random static either. This was Morse code on repeat every 13 hours. "We are still here." Super comforting, right? At first, the analyst just shrugged it off. Probably interference, whatever. Until the USGS checked it out and went, "Yeah, nope, this isn't natural." The pulses were coming from deep underground. That's when things got real cloak and dagger. The Pacific Recovery Initiative gets set up, a mashup of Navy spooks and this shadowy research group called Section K. Their mission wasn't to save anybody. They were there to keep whatever was down there from getting out. Not that they bothered telling the poor bastards getting shipped in. May of '71, Major Daniel Reeves and 11 guys land on Isla Arde, decked out with all the latest gear. Sensors, flamethrowers, some top-secret biolab kits. Official line was they were there to pick up leftover war junk from World War II. But if you dig into Section K's logs, the real orders read more like, "Hey, there's something freaky underground. Go find it, figure it out, shut it down." First few hours? Weirdly chill. Too chill. Reeves jotted down that the place looked untouched, jungle all neon green and thick, like it had been growing in high def. Birds everywhere but way too still, just staring at them like they were the odd ones out. Ocean's glass flat, barely a ripple. One of the guys cracks a joke about it being paradise. Reeves just mutters, "Paradise doesn't smell like this." And he's right. The air's got this heavy, sweet stink. Like rot, metal, and something kind of chemical, almost alive. Not exactly vacation vibes. By nightfall, they'd set up camp in the remains of some old Japanese base. Rusted rifles literally melted into the dirt like time just gave up trying. The science team started taking samples, soil, air, water, but the results were bonkers. Oxygen was normal, but the carbon traces? Same as what you'd find in rotting flesh. Basically, the ground itself was, meat adjacent. Around 11 p.m., the whole camp shakes. Monitors start freaking out, but it's not an earthquake. The tremors are too regular, like something breathing, or a giant heart beating somewhere below. Then, zap, power goes out, one unit after another. Red backup lights barely hold up, making the trees look even sketchier. Private Lynch swears he sees something moving just outside the lights, shapes slipping between the trunks. Reeves yells for flares. They shoot a few up, and for a split second, the jungle lights up like a carnival. And then, total silence. Hanging from the branches, uniforms. Dozens of them. American, Japanese, British, take your pick. Fabric still fresh, no bodies in sight. But the clothes look filled. like someone invisible's wearing them. Wind picks up and the sleeves start waving, heads turn, and no joke, a whisper comes drifting through, layered and echoing, one voice made from hundreds. Welcome back. If anyone says they didn't lose it a little, they're lying. Chaos just exploded, honestly. Some guy fired his rifle, another started shrieking, and Reeves, poor guy, tried to yell for order, but forget it. The jungle was already awake. There was this sound like the world itself had indigestion, a rolling thunder, but lower, nastier. The trees seemed to shake. Then came the stink, that sickly sweet rot, so thick it felt like swallowing spoiled fruit. Out of the darkness, things started to show up. Not really walking, not really crawling, more like sliding. They bent the air around them, barely looked human at all. Where their faces should be. Just blank, stretched skin, throbbing like something inside was trying to get out. The team? Gone, bolting for the shore, dropping packs and gear like it was all on fire. The radio guy managed to squeak out half a message before the static ate it up. Last thing anyone heard, they were never dead. By sunrise, only 6 guys left. Reeves was a mess, bleeding, barely on his feet, but he started writing everything down in his battered field journal. Those pages turned up later, weirdly enough, stuffed in a waterproof bag, the ink all runny but you could still read it. He said the survivors found some kind of structure deep in the trees, a concrete bunker, half buried, totally out of place. The walls had English and Japanese scribbled all over them, like who built this? Some secret after-the-war science thing nobody wanted to talk about, probably. Inside it felt like a meat locker. The walls actually sweated, which is honestly gross. There were busted test tubes, cracked tanks, papers stamped with this creepy symbol. A circle of black lines like an eye that won't stop twitching. Reeves wrote about one chamber where something was still moving. It's breathing. The skin is see-through. Looks human, but inside it's wrong. There's light under its skin like veins on fire. When they tried to leave, the exits just slammed shut. Seriously, the doors sounded pissed, like the bunker itself was locking them in. The lights flickered and died. And then came this sound, that same awful, dragging, not quite human wail Ward's team had caught on tape years before, echoing down the hallways. Reeves told the others to torch it all. The second the flames hit, the walls started screaming. No joke. Screaming. Some hours later, a chopper crew saw a fire tearing up the south end of Isla Arde. Then bam, it just went out. No more radio, no movement, nobody left. Recovery teams showed up 3 days later. Island still smoldered, not a soul in sight. No bodies, no bunker, not even bones. Just ash and puddles of melted metal. But under a knocked-over palm, they found Reeves's journal. His last line? The island was not the host. We were. Section K locked the whole thing away under Omega clearance, then Isla Arde just vanished off the map. The US denied everything, of course. Thing is, in '72, some Soviet sub rolled by and picked up a weird sonar ping under the island, repeating every 30 seconds like a heartbeat. Then nothing. Silence. Now, nobody goes near Isla Arde after dark. Fishermen say the water there kind of buzzes like it's breathing. And if you're out there on a moonless night, sometimes you'll see these pale lights rising from under the waves, shaky, white, like ghosts clawing their way up for air. Okay, picture this, Isla Arde locked up tight for almost 50 years. Nobody in, nobody out. Place was basically the Bermuda Triangle's moody little cousin. Everything's hush-hush. Then boom, 1998 rolls around and some satellite catches weird glowing circles under the water near the island. At first, everyone's thinking, probably volcanic stuff. But this light isn't acting like lava. It's beating, slow and steady like something alive. Not natural at all. A couple days later, over on the Palawan coast, fishermen wake up to fish apocalypse on the beach. Everything dead, washed up, and get this, every single one's got this spiral pattern burned into its skin. Looks like veins twirling around an eyeball. Same exact symbol they found years ago in the bunkers on the island. Coincidence? Yeah, right. Authorities buried the story fast, called it a toxic red algae bloom, and expected people to move on with their lives. But then, because the government can't leave creepy mysteries alone, the US Navy sends out a research ship called the Argus. Officially, they're studying the environment or whatever. But let's be real, they're hunting for whatever's been giving off that heartbeat under Isla Arde since World War II. And now they've got tech that can see through anything. What they find freaks everyone out. Turns out the island's hollow underneath. We're talking a whole structure. Corridors, chambers, all arranged too perfectly to be natural. Right in the middle, this massive empty space, pulsing like a sleeping giant's heart. Electrical spikes shooting out from the center, breaking every rule in the science book. Dr. Naomi Carter, she's running the show, writes in her notes, "It's a living system pretending to be one." Like, what does that even mean? So 2 weeks into their little adventure, the Argus just, poof, vanishes. Satellite says the ship's tracking beacon actually moved inland, like something dragged it onto the island. After that, nothing. The brass freaks out and sends a rescue team. 12 people, mix of tough guys, nerds, and a fake National Geographic film crew. The only reason we know anything about what happened next is because someone smuggled out their footage. The video starts all chill, sun out, island looking like paradise. Black sand, neon green trees, waves doing their thing. The second the team lands, though, the audio picks up this deep hum, almost too low to hear. One of the soldiers, Shaw, taps his chest and goes, "Feels like it's inside me." They camp on the spot where, back in '71, the ground literally turned to glass. Still looks melted, like some cosmic microwave zapped it. Come night 2, everything goes sideways. Earthquakes, camera goes wild, that hum turns into this gut-punching pulse. Dr. Carter whispers, "It's responding to us," and leads the cameraman into the jungle. The group spreads out, waving flashlights, nerve shot. Then, bam, shapes in the trees. Human shapes just standing there, not moving. Lights catch uniforms, some ancient American, some Japanese, rotting away. One's even got on a ripped wetsuit from the Argus crew. But their faces? No. No eyes, no mouths, just skin pulled tight over empty skulls. Like the island hollowed them out and wore them as a warning. Right as one of the soldiers yells out, panic in his voice, the whole crowd of figures snap their heads around at once. Eerie as hell. Then, from somewhere way back in the jungle, this voice starts up. It's weirdly soft, almost tender, but the words are just nonsense. Like someone trying to fake human speech after hearing it once in a nightmare. The figures lurch forward, all twitchy, moving like broken puppets. Suddenly, gunfire rips through the air. The feed on the camera goes wild, bursts of light, people screaming, static blaring. When it cuts back in, for guys are just gone. And the jungle? Dead quiet again, like nothing ever happened. So the rest of the squad stumbles back to the beach, desperate to get their radios working, calling for help. Nothing. Not even a blip. All their watches too, frozen at 2:13 a.m. That's when someone notices the tide's pulling way out, way too fast. The ocean's retreating like it's scared, showing all these nasty black rocks, wet and sharp. Then out in the bay, something starts rising. It's not a building. It's this huge, heaving lump, like coral and raw flesh mashed together. Under its skin, lights flicker and snake around like blood vessels on fire. The whole island lets out a sound, this deep, gut-churning groan that actually warps the camera lens. Dr. Carter just loses it. "It's alive," she screams. After that, it's chaos. Waves smashing in, men yelling, the sky suddenly glowing red like it's bleeding. The last thing you see before the footage dies is Lieutenant Shaw, hand outstretched, reaching for the thing as it splits open like a wound. Inside, hundreds of faces, all human but wrong, melted together, every mouth whispering the same word, "Stay." 3 days later, a rescue signal pings out, but not from the island. Nope, 400 miles away, just drifting out in the ocean. The rescue team finds one guy in a lifeboat, basically a popsicle, eyes wide open but totally empty. The dog tags say it's Shaw. He gets airlifted to Guam, but the doctors there freak out. His pulse isn't human. It's thumping in perfect sync with those weird signals they recorded under Isla Arde. Within 2 days, Shaw starts glowing, faint light shining under his skin. Then, right in the middle of an exam, he just stops breathing. Doctors try to bring him back, but every monitor in the room suddenly lights up, heartbeats multiplying across the screens like some kind of virus. The whole power grid fries. When the lights come back, Shaw's body is gone. In his place, A puddle of that same black sludge from the island, sticky and cold. They test it, turns out it's got human DNA. Not just one person though, hundreds. After that, the government loses its mind, total blackout. Satellite photos? All blurred out. Civilian boats that get too close? Their navigation just craps out. Still, sometimes sonar picks up something down there. Just waiting. Just breathing. Flash forward to 2007, some sketchy mining company tries to work nearby. Suddenly, the whole trench collapses. For 2 days, their gear picks up these deep, regular thumps like something huge is breathing way below. Nobody on the crew wants to talk. One diver, before he vanished, scribbles a note. The island isn't an island. It's a door. Nowadays, Isla Arde just sits there. Lush, green, sneaky calm. If you didn't know, you'd think it was paradise. But nobody's allowed to fly over. Locals swear that on quiet nights, you can hear voices on the wind, all kinds of languages begging for help. And sometimes, late at night, the ocean glows with weird lights, pulsing like a heartbeat. What's really under that place? Weapon? Creature? Something older? No clue. But everyone agrees, those soldiers didn't just stumble into a fight. They woke up something that should have stayed buried. And it's still out there waiting. You've been watching War Files Uncovered, the show where the truth oozes out, even if you'd rather not see it. Subscribe before something else wakes up and decides to come looking.